Regular channel viewers will know that I love turning old mountain bikes into gravel-capable drop bar blasters for very little dosh. I haven't built one in ages, so let's do that now. Okay, so if I had to list all the bikes that I've made into viable gravel thrashing options, you would tune out because I do pictures here, who, do that thing, not bothering. Today, we've got something a little bit different because it's a massive frame and it's aluminium. Check this out. Today, we have got a Giant Boulder Team frame made from 6061 aluminium. Thanks once again to Frankie. Frankie says on Instagram, he comes across this stuff because he's tall like me. When he doesn't want it, comes my way. This one is slick as anything. Check that paint job out. That yellow with the Giant logo conjures up a little bit of Martin Hayes vibes for men like me of a certain age, but this is certainly no trials frame, but we've got some good plans for it. And those plans start with these Kona Project 2 forks, but it's not as simple as that. I've had to make some mods and changes and work to get this frame to the point where it's ready to build. So let's have a look at that first.
So to extend that steerer, there's only one way I'm planning on doing it, and that's the proper way, with a welder. To do this, I've got a piece of inch diameter steerer inside as a sleeve, and then a surplus piece of 1 1/8" steerer, all steel obviously. To stick them together, I've used plug welds on both pieces and then a seam around the joint. You end up with a bit of surplus material that you then have to grind and smooth off. But this was my first go at this, and I'm actually really pleased with the result. It's nice and strong. It's not the prettiest, but you're not going to see it, and it means that I can now use a Project 2 fork for this build. With that steerer done, it's time to sort out that water damaged frame. The frame has little water droplet marks all over it that won't come off. This is from hot water that's from a house where the roof has come in. So my plan is to give myself a nice flat base for a fresh clear coat, and I'm doing that with 2000 grit paper, wetted down, and I'm working my way through the frame, smoothing out any of the scratches and any other issues, basically to give myself a lovely basis for that shiny clear coat. I'm not trying to make this bike look like new, just make it look nice and presentable, and basically just catch the light with some fresh clear coat, which I'm just going to apply from a can. The end result, I think, is pretty darn good. The metallic purple rear end now shines beautifully, and the yellow and red decals are popping. So that's it, it's done, it's now protected, that's how the frame's going to stay, and it's time now really to get on and build it.
So as you can see, a lot of work has gone in to getting this lovely shiny frame ready for a build-up. I've also been doing a bit of a test fit, so I've left some parts on, including the bottom bracket. But let me show you the parts that I'm planning on fitting to this badass machine. Okay, so to kick off the parts, we've got my favourite on-one midge bars, and we've got a little stubby Thompson stem, because I'm really hoping, with this being a large frame, it's 23.5 inch in size, it's massive, we're going to be able to run a short stem for a really nimble, fun, playful gravel machine. Okay, you'll notice we've got some levers that aren't integrated. These are a dead giveaway as to one other thing we're going to be adding, and if you have a look when I pull them here, these are a little unusual. And that's because they're for V-brakes. That's right, the Diacompi brake levers I've got are actually for V-brake pull, which is an absolute boon of a find, which means that we can use some XT V-brakes, which are rather nice. You might recognise these if you've seen my green GT build, because they've come off it. I can't just keep building and leaving them and building and leaving them, so the green GT doesn't get ridden at the moment because it's sacrificed its parts for other things, so I went all in and robbed these. Meanwhile, shifting is going to be taken care by one of my favourites, a Shimano bar end shifter. So these are a real universal soldier, these bar end shifters. They're really handy. They do 8 and 9 speed indexing, and they also do friction. I've run up to an 11 speed on friction with these, but today we're going 9 speed. Up front, we're going to be running a bit of Holotech 2 in the shape of this Tiagra chain set with a single 36 tooth chain ring. We're also going to have a chain guide to make sure it doesn't drop because this isn't a narrow wide chain. And then there's the wheels. Wheels, we're going for an early set of Mavic cross rides. These are a great wheel, although the hubs do corrode and they do tend to ping spokes after a while. These ones are coming to the end of their life, but they're perfectly usable for a few good gravel thrashings. Tyres wise, I've just gone for a fat Schwalbe Big Apple. Why? Well, because I didn't want to put Billy Bonkers on it, and this was all I had. Oh, and the cassette, 1142 9 speed. I think that'll suffice. Okay, so that is the build. So there's nothing left to do but get in, build it up, and go and ride it around. We're going to start as usual. I don't know why I did that. And we're going to start as usual with the old headset and forks, because we may need to trim those down after that massive fork extension that I've added. Okay, to kick things off, we're going to fit a headset. Now I've got actually a sealed cartridge bearing headset here, and it just happens to be the cheapest thing going. Oh no. And you may notice straight away that it is purple. Because I ordered 2 purple ones instead of a purple and a black one. So guess what? They're going in. Lubrication for the nation around them here. And like I said, these are actually a sealed cartridge bearing. But I'm not getting overly excited because this headset cost £11 on Amazon. Now, I'm not expecting big things, but I did buy them knowing they'd probably be okay because Martin on Life's been good to me so far as using these on one of his builds, and he had a couple in our workshop, and I was surprised to see that they actually seem all right. They're okay for what they are. Oh, I know why I'm cack-handed. No wonder we were having trouble putting this in. I was still in the display stand and not clamped firmly in the working bit of the bike stand there. Right, let's get this jazzy purple headset in place, shall we? And with that headset in place, we now can test fit our fork and see how much, if any, we're going to chop off. Hopefully none. None would be nice. Do you know what? It's going to be none. This is blooming marvellous news. Well, that's a quality fit. Nice. Right. Spacers. Got some red X lights, so when I tighten this they'll shatter. I think they will do the job. They're a little bit faded, but yeah, red and purple works together, doesn't it? Perfect, because I've got something for the top cap that I think you're going to love. And that cool something is this. It's a Garmin mount printed by Dave at Pickering's Bikes, which I just happen to have waiting for a build and is going to fit perfectly above this stem. Fantastic. There we go. Look at that. Garmin mount. Next job on our list, let's get a crank in place. Let's just put a little bit of grease in here. I've already fitted the bottom bracket because I ended up just using it just to check the threads over and just check what we were going to do was going to work, because we've got some very tight clearance here. It's actually, I've put a chain guard on and it's now catching it. It's like my chain wrap protector is going to have to go. The Q factor on this bike build is so narrow, I can't even run a chain wrap. So let's get rid of it. I'm so excited about that as well. This is really rough through there. Let's do just a black tape one. Okay, so chainstay protector had to go as well, and because there's a fair bit of chain suck damage here, and a little bit on the inside that's a bit weird, I've just put some tape over there, some insulation tape, just to cover it up, because as soon as we start riding this on gravel, the chain's going to be bumping and slacking around, and we just don't want that. So, like I said, the Q factor on this chain set on the bike is very, very close, because we're using a road chain set on a 68mm bottom bracket shell, but on a mountain bike, so it is super duper close, but if it clears, it clears. I'm just tightening these up. I'm just going to torque them as well. Hang on a minute. Why is that suddenly hitting? We're going to have to just get the thinnest spacer we can find just to buy ourselves a little bit of room there. It's now striking the frame, which it wasn't a minute ago. I have an idea. Oh. Okay, so I've got a theory. I don't know whether it's going to work or not, but I'm going to hope that it will. I don't know whether this bottom bracket's been face down or whether it's just the Q factor of the chain set just being a little bit too tight for this frame. But my plan is to use pretty much the thinnest spacer I can get away with out of this pack of spacers that I've been holding on to forever, to see if I can get what I need. So this pack has some really fine spacers, the standard 3 that you'd use if you're doing a 68mm mountain bike, and then some really thin ones here. And they've got one this size, it's possibly 1.5 mm, 2 mm, and I think that might be just enough to save our bacon. So I'm going to put it on and just see. I should still be able to get enough of the crank arm on. In fact, I can see as I'm refitting this now that there's an awful lot of crank showing through. So actually we may be dealing with a narrowed down bottom bracket. I did measure it. Oh yes. So now what we've done is we've evened our pedal spacing up, our crank spacing up rather, and there's still more than enough of the arm to go on. We can take the tension out and torque it up. Again, would I do this for a customer? Absolutely not. Would I do it just for this cool build that we're doing? Sure. There we go. Lovely. Right, now let's torque it up. Sorted. Got a crank that's clearing on both sides now. Okay, so after that slight challenge with the crank set, now we're going to fit something we know will go in, and that's these wheels. So I'm going to put the rear one in first of all and just offer everything up. I'm pretty sure everything's going to fit fine. I've done a little test fit off camera and everything works as it should. Now the tyres, the ones I'd lying around, weren't what I was going to go for until Martin mentioned to me, from Life's Been Good to Me so far, that he's used them on this kind of thing before and they've been an awful lot of fun. They do feel fast and supple and like rolling. So, and I mean on top of that they've got puncture protection, which is great. So there you go. Let's put the front one in. Oodles of clearance. You've got to love a Kona project too. So much so that I've now extended the steerers on 3 of mine that I've had on the wall as display items for years to use them for these kind of projects. Now we can start to see the whole thing taking shape. Oh man, that is cool. Okay, so next parts to go on is going to be those V-brakes, but before I do, because this Kona fork has been stood for so long, there's some corrosion on the canty bosses, so I'm just going to get some wet and dry, some emery cloth, whatever you've got, just a fine grit, and I'm going to just sand off that rust. So I've got a nice smooth set of brake posts on the bike before I fit the XT V-brakes, before I fit the and he said canty brakes then, before I fit the V-brakes. And we can call them V-brakes because these are Shimano's. There we go. Nice smooth posts. A little bit of grease on each post as well. Just using some multi-purpose. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my V-brakes in place. Nice. Oh, we're going to have to swap the pads around though because the spacers are wrong. We can do that there. There we go. Quick torque up. Going for between 6 and 8 Nm of torque on it.
Should be fine. Quickly swap these pad spacers around as well. Reason why I'm swapping to the narrower spacer is just because of the angle the brakes are sitting at. When pulled on, they're too wide to get a nice pull. I don't want that. Basically, don't want your V-brake out on an angle like this when it's pulled on. We want it to be nice. I mean, they want it to be nice and parallel, basically. They are called a linear pull brake for a reason. Lovely. Smashing. There we go. Nice pull on that brake now. That'll be brilliant. Right, let's do the back. Okay, so out back, it's going to be more of the same. Tidy up these posts. Oh, that broke. Just to get a little bit of the corrosion off, anything that's going to stop our brake from running nice and smooth. Only using a fine sandpaper, nothing too abrasive. Nice bit of that grease on there as well. Don't forget to grease your posts, it's important. Yeah, I think the pads are going to have to be swapped over on this one as well. Slightly rusty bolts there. Right, switch them pads over. Okay, so with the braking all sorted out, we've got all our pads spaced correctly on the V-brakes. We're now going to move on to some shifting. And out the back, because it's only one by drivetrain, we're not having a derailleur at the front. Shifting is going to be taken care of by some 9-speed Dior XT, which should be pulled nicely by the bar and shifter. I sort of know this because it's done it before. Hopefully it'll be nice. These XTs should be able to take care of the 42 tooth out the back without a drop link. To be honest, if we need a drop link, it's not the end of the world, because with this being an early aluminium frame, there's no replaceable hanger. So if we were to use a drop link, it would actually protect the frame a little bit as well. But anyway, let's see how we get on. Let's get a chain on, and we're going to put a chain guide up front to stop it dropping off as well. Okay, so chain wise, we're going for good old Shimano HD53, which will take care of all of our chain related duties, like driving the bike along. Yeah, no cheap AliExpress chain here today. I'm going to try and get this chain as long as I possibly can get it with tension in it. I think it's going to do its job just fine at that length there. Lovely. Right. There we go. Okay, with that clipped in, let's just see what sort of clearance we get here. Whether it'll do what we ask of it, and it will. So it's going to do our 42 there, look. So we might need to lose just a little bit of chain just so it pulls it a bit tighter, but let's see. We'll deal with that when we get it indexing. Okay, so there we go. This is going to be our drivetrain. Let's get that chain guide on here as well. So as we're not using a narrow wide chain up front, sensible option is to fit a chain guide just to keep it where we want it on the drivetrain. I happen to have this old one knocking about. I think I used this on the e-bike for a while, if it's the one I remember correctly. And all I'm going to do is use it. It just works literally by keeping the chain in place. I'm going to try and set it as low as I can, basically for aesthetic reasons as much as anything. So it's not sat up high. People run these really, really high sometimes. And there's actually no need. You can run it nice and low. And it's really unobtrusive. It's not going to spoil the look of the bike, but it is going to keep everything on where it needs to be. There we go. Yeah, so once that grub screw's tightened, we're then just going to make our final adjustments to the actual guide and tighten that one off. And then that is our chain guide in place. And actually, when you set these right, they don't look too bad at all. There we go, about there would be nice for us.
One last tweak of that grub screw because it's still moving a little bit. And there we go. One chain guide in place. Lovely. It should move. Hopefully it won't touch on the inside, and I've got it first time, which I have. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so our first job, now we've got everything set up out back, is to fit our bar end shifter and get some nice indexing gears working correctly. To fit these, you basically screw them in with the location for the cable underneath, tighten them up, they're reverse threaded, it grub screws in, and now we can fit our shifter quite happily. These are really, really simple, and they're an absolute dream to index because they're 9-speed and just brilliant. There we go. There's our shifter, all set in place. To get a cable, thread that through. Again, couldn't be any easier, especially if you haven't got to have a camera angle like me. Thread that through. Now, when you do the external routing for these, you've got a couple of choices. A lot of people, old school, they go up to just below the brake and then they loop round out here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go all the way up and round because my routing is actually up here. So I should be able to hide it like a conventional shifter, which would be really nice. So we're going to kick off with a length of gear outer. We're going to measure it up, roughly where we want it to go. Pretty straightforward because it's going to there. I'm going to give myself a little bit longer than I think I need, just because I need to be able to twist my handlebars. So we'll go to that. Little drop of oil just inside the liner. I know these are lined, but I still oil them as well because I think it's best practice. Thread this cable through. Make sure it's not feeling any resistance, we haven't crushed anything. Have a look where my cable routing is going to go. I think it's going to be this outside one here. So I'm going to just put some tape around it to set it up where I want it to go. I'm going to go up the inside here. Would have been really good if I'd got rid of the oil on my hands before I started this. I'm going to keep following that line. There we go. It might just be just a touch long there, so I'm just going to pull the cable out and just shorten it slightly. Okay, so being ever so slightly old school, this mountain bike has got some cool top routing to keep the mud away from the cables. I actually liked them when they were like this. They're brilliant. So rather than having cabling on the down tube, keeping it clear of mud, I can see the point in the design. Normally means we end up with a few more lengths of cable to make, but that's no big deal. One thing you do notice with this bike is because it's a huge 23.5-inch frame, it is just everything is long. All these cable routing lengths are really, really long, which is kind of cool actually. Okay, so in the nick of time, I've added a barrel adjuster, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to index this. I'm going to try and get it at an angle where we can see it working. Right, so we've got engagement. Certainly need a bit more cable tension. Oh, it's not moving at all there. Okay, so turns out I've made a bit of a mistake with the down tube shifter, or bar and shifter as it is in this guise, and it wasn't actually set in the right position to give me 9-speed. So it's now working really nicely. And we've got an inline adjuster, so we're all good for when everything settles in. What a head scratcher, that was really weird. Enough to make you want to bite yourself, as people say. But we've done it, there we go, gears working. Okay, so with these gears now working, and it's a 1x, so we're sorted there. Next job is to make sure that these V-brake pivot levers actually do work. And for that, we're going to need to lever the cables. Cable up the levers, put a noodle, and we'll need some boots as well, I would imagine. And we're going to test out our setup. So let's kick off with a brake cable. Let's see how these go together. So, oh, okay, right, so they go through the back like normal. I think it's just the pivot that's different.
I think these could have their moments because you have to sit the cable in. It doesn't go through a hole, it locks into a groove. So if you haven't got this right, you're going to know about it because it's going to pop out. Not my favourite approach. Right, so every day's a school day. This cover comes off to allow us to fit the cable in and locks it in place. So that's actually really good. So the cable is secured by this little cover, which is great. Nice touch that. Let's be honest, do we expect any less from Diacompi? No, not really. Their stuff is top notch. Right, that's that. So I've now got a cable in. And let's see how we get on. Let's get a bit of outer, a bit of brake outer to go from there. Do you know what? I don't know whether you've noticed in this video, but I'm incredibly cack-handed today. I don't know what's causing it. So the brake cable's coming down to about here. Okay, right. Try something. I've got a lined end cap here. I'm wondering whether it might be quite a nice option for us here to have that going into the lever. And you can see that just there, it's just got a bit of a liner. Given that these don't route the nicest, will it just help it along its way? Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, I got it. I'm going to take this in place before it comes out again. So I ended up just having to manipulate the cable there just to get it to go in and just loosen the brake lever off the handlebar just a touch. I don't think, if you weren't using these silly flared bars like I like, you probably wouldn't have an issue with this. It's just because of what I'm using. But I think running a liner, because this cable runs straight through a metal hole into the end, I think running the liner is going to make for better braking performance overall, which we will find out in a moment. Got our noodle. Let's get a boot. Now I'm not putting in line adjusters in these V-brakes. I'm just going to set them up and hopefully I'll be able to just adjust as I go at the cable end as and when required. I'm going to set myself up for my standard 10mm of travel using my trick with the noodle. Tighten that off and hopefully we'll get a nice feeling lever, because these apparently are V-brake pull. So let's see. Okay. They are indeed V-brake pull, but not great. I'm not sure that is V-brake pull if I'm being totally honest, because I can touch the bars there. So I'm going to change the amount of cable pull I've got. Just see if that works. Ah, there we go. They are V-brake pull. Just going to settle them right in. Yeah, I think we've got a little bit of cable settling going on here as well. There we go. Right. So these aren't going to be set up like you would with a flat bar, because I can't have 10mm. I've got to have a bit less travel. But yeah, other than that, feel all right. Feel pretty good, pretty solid. Cool. Right, let's do the back one. Add some bar tape and unveil it. To the time lapse. Go! There we go, fresh out of the time lapse. The Giant is braking cover for the first time. I've also added some pedals and my Brooks Cambium saddle ready for a test ride. Let's recap what we did. We took an early 2000s Giant Boulder Team 6061 aluminium frame and a Kona Project 2 fork. We clear coated the frame to make it shine again after that water damage. We extended the steerer on the Project 2 forks using a sleeve and some welding. We then went on to add the cross-ride wheels with the Big Apple tyres, 1x9 drivetrain, 36 at the front and 1142 out the back. Perfection. On one midge bars, Thompson stem, Thompson seat post. So I've put some nice Gucci bits on. We've got those Diacompi levers for the V-brake pull to pull the Dior XT V-brakes. Rear derailleur is also XT with a Tiagra
chain set up front with 175mm cranks alongside that massive 23.5 inch frame. Awesome. Now all that's left to do is get it out on a proper test ride. I have been around the block and it has got those comfort vibes, the similar geometry like the Vagabond. Really comfortable place to be because that frame is just so big. Anyway, you'll have to wait for that. And with that, I'm going to take your next riders downhill, smooth tarmac, keep your rubber on the road or your knobblies out on that trail. Be safe out there. Remember to look out for one another. Mark the cyclist, give each other a nod, say hello, be decent. Remember, stop and help people. Be a good human being first and even better cyclist second. If you get a minute, it'd be amazing if you could like and subscribe to help keep the channel growing. But, and it's a big but, don't let any of that get in the way of you getting out and riding your bike. Until next time, it's been downhill smooth tarmac. Thank you for watching.